everybody, and welcome to On the Flank, episode number 11. I am your host, John George, alongside Joe Kirkpatrick. Say hello, Joe.
Hey, everybody.
This is good old episode 11. We're continuing our Wednesday streak here. We thought it'd be fitting because BlizzCon starts very soon. We might as well start close to BlizzCon. And here in the off season, we've gotten tons of news on Mondays and Tuesdays. Not as much this week, but we still got some news. We do have events to talk about. Good old BlizzCon. I'm excited. BlizzCon is one of my favorite times of the year as a fan of a bunch of Blizzard games. And we get to see some Overwatch esports as well. Overwatch World Cup is this weekend. Joe, you ready to dive in and actually preview these quarterfinals and predict who's going to win it all?
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
Let's absolutely do it. So let's just go game by game on this bracket and talk about it since we do have the first four matches that we are going to see on Friday, starting at 3 p.m. Eastern time for us. The first one is the U.S. versus the United Kingdom. I think most people have U.S. in this one. Joe, are you any different from them?
No, I would definitely agree. Thinking back to what we saw from Great Britain in the Paris stage, yeah, it's obviously they came second out of there, but they got pretty well handled, I thought, by France and presumably by the United States as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's not too much else to preview with this one. I mean, UK is just mostly filled with contenders talent, and the US has some of the best Overwatch League talent in the world. So, I think most people consider US to be a top 3 team for sure. So, I would go US on this one. It's best of 5, right? So I'll give it a 3-0. I'll give it a 3-0.
Mm-hmm.
Next is France versus Canada. The old French showdown here, as some Canadians speak French, of course. This one's a really good match. Some people have France rated highly. Some people have France rated pretty lowly because they say their group wasn't as strong. Do you agree with these haters, Joe? Or do you think French could pull off a big upset here against Canada?
Yeah, I think certainly this side of the bracket, France, Canada, and then later China, Finland is the closer of the two here in the semifinal round because it's Team France for the World Cup is almost sort of a trial run for Team Paris Overwatch League Season 2, right? Lots of player overlap, but to compare the performance, from the Canadian groups, or not Canadian group stage, from the LA group stage, with Team Canada, as compared to the Paris group stage with France. You're right; they were very different groups. So for that, it's going to be hard. I might, as far as I'm concerned, this just comes down to the factors of the day, who's having a good day, what maps are they playing, and almost. But I might give a slight edge, I don't know, to France, and that might just be because we've seen them more recently. But it'll definitely be a good match. We've seen lots of the established talent on Canada, lots of the developing talent on Team France. I think either way, that'll be a good semifinal rounds. So this is the quarterfinal round, but a good semifinal round on that side of the bracket for sure.
Oh yeah. This one's going to five maps for sure. I think this is the best quarterfinal matchup in my opinion. I really like both these teams. It's going to be a hard one. And honestly, I think France takes it 3-2. They've got something to prove as the new kids in town. As the Paris roster right here has been announced, I think they're all ready to show the world that Paris is going to be a good team in Overwatch League this year.
I guess that's technically an upset because Canada got second last year, right?
Canada got second last year, and I think most people think that Canada is the better team for sure. They've got more Overwatch League talent. I mean, technically last season they do, but now it's pretty even if you take a look at current rosters. But I honestly think this is going to be a lot. I think it's going to be very close. And I think the old French are going to take this one actually in a shocking upset here, 3-2. Next one after that one is going to be China versus Finland, which is also a really good match. Um, you've got a Finnish team that played against South Korea and played them very well, very closely, possibly could have won. And then you got a Chinese team that was dominant and looked very good, filled with future Overwatch League talent because of how good they have looked. Joe, who do you got in this one?
But yeah, so the same thing, right? This is the other match on that same left side of the bracket, but yeah, I don't know. It's a very different competing play styles, right? It's so part of that will depend on how this 1.29 patch, with which none of them have played on in group stage. We talked about that last week, that it's actually the live patch, which is cool, or at least
Mm-hmm.
the patch that's currently live. But how that fits with some of the compositions they were running, Finland doing lots of tank heavy stuff, especially. Um, yeah, no, I would love to see China do well. I would love to see China coming out of this. So I guess that'll be my pick.
Okay, China. Um, I'm gonna. Phew, this one's super tough too. Both this side of the bracket, so good. Both. I think Finland runs goats comp and some very strong comps right now, and I think China has a pretty similar style with Gushue being their strongest player as a main tank. Um, so it's going to be a battle of some tanky teams here. Uh, I think this is another 3-2, but I'm going to take Finland. I'm opposing you on this one. I like Finland's talent. I like their experience, and last year China looked like an insane dominant team in the group stages, and then came to BlizzCon and lost in the first round. I think the same thing happens once again. 3-2. Finland takes it. And then we got our last matchup: South Korea, Australia. There are a lot of people on social media, Reddit, calling for the Australia win right here. It would be a monumental mountain to climb and defeat the
That it
South
would.
Koreans as Australia. Do you think they have a chance, Joe?
I think they have a chance, but it's not likely. Yeah, just we could talk forever about just the raw talent, right, in that South Korean roster, and we saw how deep it was in the group stage, right, with their roster, but they're fielding like half their starters are different now for the playoffs for the tournament. But I think they're gonna do just as well. Yeah, I think I'm gonna play it safe. I think for this pick, call it for South Korea in the first round.
Yeah. I'm gonna say Australia comes out. They come out strong. They take the first map. Everyone's hyped, but then South Korea easily takes the next three maps. In classic South Korean fashion. I really like their new roster compared to their old one, and I think honestly once they put in Fleta and who else do I really like that they put in?
Fury, I think.
Yes, Fury. Once they put in Fury and Fleta, I was like, oh boy, this is going to be a lot tougher for people now because they've actually got I think their best players in now. So I say South Korea takes a 3-1. We get a nice little Australia win, and everyone's like, could it happen? But it's not going to. So yeah, now let's just go through the rest of our brackets. I guess there's only one different pick. You chose China, I chose Finland. Let's start with this will be on Saturday. And that one's starting early, right? 12:30, earlier than Friday, 12:30 Eastern
Yeah.
time. So let's just start. Who both very tough matchups. Let's start with your matchup of France versus China. Who do you think would
Versus
win that one?
China. I almost feel like I'd have to go back and watch some of the matches from the group stages. But yeah, France v China. And I think this also doesn't really hardly count, but I almost want to reserve judgment until I see China play.
Yeah,
Um, in the group stage, if they come out and it's pretty successful over Finland, that might give them an edge. But if it's close, I might lean more towards France. I don't know. Um, yeah, so if I had to pick, let's give it
yeah.
to
You
France.
got okay,
Uh,
France.
so yeah, France moved to the finals.
Okay. That's an interesting matchup because it's like two teams that are built with future Overwatch League talent, season two Overwatch League talent. So that would be an interesting matchup for sure. So I got France versus the old Finland. A lot of people like Finland a lot. I'm not as hot on Finland as most people are. Of course, I'm an Outlaws fan, so I love Linkser. But overall, I think their team is good, but I don't think it's as good as people are boasting. So I'm gonna go France on this one. I think honestly, France is coming in here. The Paris team has just been announced. They looked really good in their group stage. They're underlooked. They're underdogs, and I believe they're going to come in here and they're going to surprise a lot of people. I think France takes the series 3-1, and they go to the final. They've got a lot to prove as a new Overwatch League Season 2 team, and people don't think they're going to be as good because they're nationally restricted. But I think that these players are going to come out there and show their all. We both have U.S. versus South Korea, the rematch from last year and the rematch from the year before, but this time it's in the semifinals instead of the quarterfinals, which is great for all of us because one of these great teams are not getting eliminated immediately. Do you think the United States has a chance to take down the South Koreans this year?
I definitely do. I think and part of that obviously is um, from the differences between the group stage. Like I think was Incheon the first group stage, right? And they were like
Yeah.
um, several weeks before the U.S. group stage, so they played on different patches and at different times. But yes, the U.S. was just dominant in the series that they did play um, over who did they play? Canada? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So it was U.S. and Canada. Yeah, coming out dominant in that series when people expected it to be really close. Obviously, they've got uh, when I think of Team USA, I think of that Fusion University Matching Contenders Finals because, of course, we've got Zachary on there. But I suppose they're not so directly connected because I think he's their sub. Scrolling down to
Yeah.
rosters, yeah, he's
They did say that their coach is Arrow, right?
yeah, yeah, Arrow for
He's
US.
Yeah, he said that they're actually using a lot of Fusion University strategies and they were scrimming with them during the group stage because of the connection with Zachary. So I think their play style
And it
is
worked really well for him.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think their play style is very in vein of Fusion University. So
Yeah, so partly for that reason, yeah, I feel comfortable go ahead and giving the edge to the United States in that matchup.
oh wow.
Whether it happens or not, we'll see. Uh, but I'm comfortable enough to say that.
Yeah. And this is if anyone's been watching League of Legends Worlds, this is the year of NA and EU finally jumping over that South Korea hoop. Um, watch League of Legends Worlds; it's been insane. It's been crazy. I don't know. This one's gonna be close. It's gonna be another 3-2. I really, really like South Korea's updated roster, and their new players that they put in. If South Korea had their roster from the group stages, I would totally easily take US here, but I'm going to take South Korea 3-2. I can't hype myself up for some more disappointment like I do every year. I'm like, this is the year United States is going to win it. But I mean, this is their best chance for sure. But the Korean players have gotten better alongside them. So I got France, South Korea in my finals. You got France, USA in your finals. Who do you think takes it all between France and USA, Joe?
Yeah, and then from there, I think it gets a little bit easier to
Yeah.
that I would go ahead and give it to the United States. Go ahead and it's coming home, as they say, except it's actually just going to stay in California. That's going to be my call.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think whoever wins the US South Korea game is going to win it all. I think those are the better teams, even though I have France making an amazing streaky victory, lots of hype behind those guys. But yeah, I think South Korea takes it as well, and it's not going to be as good as the semifinal match between U.S. South Korea. I honestly think that should be the final, in my opinion. So I got South Korea, you got US. We'll see who wins that game. Because I think we both think that the winner in that game is going to be the champion. Um, yeah, so that's a nice little preview. It was nice talking about matches again, Joe. We haven't had matches in a very long time.
It's true.
But what else happens at BlizzCon? We don't only get to see some Overwatch esports, but we get to see some announcements for Overwatch. We get a new hero. We usually get a new map, but we're not going to get a new map this time. And it seems like there's definitely going to be another announcement in place of that map. There was a supposed leak this week. I'm not sure if I buy it, but Joe, you got it pulled up on your computer because it's not loading on mine. You want to go through what the leak says?
Yeah, I think they got it from 4chan. I don't have it. It's not on 4chan right here, but yeah, somebody decided they were going to leak all the Blizzard's announcements from BlizzCon. This is posted 3 or 4 days ago. You can probably go back and look at it if you want. But the Overwatch one is what we're interested in.
Yeah.
So obviously every year they've released a hero cinematic trailer. I think last year was Reinhardt around this time, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. And so this particular leak says, well, this one's going to involve McCree, Reaper, Sombra, and the new hero, which this leaker says is going to be called Nemesis, which is super edgy sounding. But yeah, so new, supposedly Blackwatch type of cinematic trailer, so that'd be cool if that comes out. But yes, so new hero again. Last year it was Moira. Since then we've also gotten Brig and Wrecking Ball, but now this leaker declares, well, the next hero, Hero 29, is going to be called Nemesis. Looks like a DPS type hero. They describe him as a cyborg with a railgun. Abilities: high jumps, electric nets, regeneration, call down nuke. Presumably that's the alt, I guess.
Call down nuke.
So yeah, that's what they're describing as Hero 29. Says there's also going to be the announcement of some more Blizzard World skins, because again, last year BlizzCon they announced Blizzard World as a map, and then also came out with a bunch of Blizzard IP related skins, like Immortal Orisa for StarCraft. There was a Torbjorn Dwarf one. I can't think of all the others, but there were several. They have they say, well, they're going to add to that list here, including Zenyatta Monk, Mercy Spirit Healer, Genji Blade Master, Sorceress Symmetra, Fallen Junkrat, Kerrigan Diva, and Winston Primal Zerg, which I only know what some of those things are because I don't play very many Blizzard IPs other than Overwatch.
Yeah,
but
I mean, some of them are just like very generic World of Warcrafty sounding terms, just like a sorcerer, like a blade. I don't know what a blade master could be. I don't know. Yeah.
Notably on there is the Kerrigan Diva. Obviously, we did get Kerrigan Widowmaker. I don't know when that was, but in the last year they gave it out for free, I think, or something. So that's speculation. That's would that be realistic? Who knows? We'll have to find out.
Yeah.
And then the final bullet point here for Overwatch says story game mode announcement and details. PvE missions that are not tied to seasonal events, unlocked with credits or in new loot boxes. And so the comma position was interesting here, and people were trying to decide if that meant that non-event PvE missions would be unlocked with credits or in new loot boxes, or that there would be the announcement of PvE missions that are non-event and not unlocked with credits and not in new loot boxes. It makes more sense probably to do the latter, I would think. But so those are the bullets that this anonymous leaker has decided to put out. And like you said, there's several for all of the Blizzard games. But yeah, so I guess what do we think about those kind of things?
Yeah. Let's start with the hero. I do think it's going to be a DPS hero. Is it going to be exactly what they described here? I don't know. I think there was a leak around BlizzCon last year that was wrong, similar to this. I don't know if all this is right. I think whoever posted this is like he's right in the money. I think there will be Blizzard World skins. I don't know if those are specific. I don't know why they would make a Kerrigan Diva once again, another Kerrigan skin in this game. Um, Animated short McCree makes sense. There hasn't been a McCree one yet. It would be cool. All of this makes sense. Is it on the money? Not sure. We do need a railgun hero. There's no railgun gun in the game. As far as heroes, what I really wanted was another hit scan hero. We haven't gotten a hit scan hero in a while. The two DPS heroes since release, Doomfist and Sombra, are both they're both more ability based heroes, and I want a hero that is based mainly off of its primary fire. If this railgun hero could be that, it definitely sounds like its main focus is on its primary fire and its gun, which is something I think the game needs right now. There's a lot of ability based heroes which are fun, lots of fun to watch. Genji, Doomfist, all these. But it is also fun to watch someone go off on McCree, on Widow, on Soldier. I would love some more skill-based primary fire heroes. So if Nemesis is it, then I will take it. Honestly, just give me something like that. How about you, Joe? What are you looking for in a hero?
Yeah, it's I'd agree. We're probably due for a DPS based on the way some of the heroes have come out recently. Yeah, I kind of wish. Yeah, so hopefully, if indeed Nemesis is the one we're getting, that we get a little bit more refinement on these abilities. Because right now it just sounds like Genji with the double jump, and Torb with the area denial, and Mercy with the health regen,
Very
and
weird.
Diva with the nuke. So hopefully those are some more nuances that we don't know about yet, if
Yeah.
those indeed are the abilities. But yeah, it looks like another fairly mobile, fairly sustainable DPS. We've got lots of those already, but that is the way that that most Overwatch is played right now. To be able to have lots of those abilities all thrown together in one. We play Brig as a combination of like all three roles practically, and being able to have more versatile characters rather than like Soldier, who's there to Soldier is there to hold left click. Well, not don't hold left click anymore, but yeah, yes, heroes to be able to fill roles and do things in lots of different situations. That's seems like sort of the direction we're going, so this makes sense with that. Like I said, super edgy name. Hopefully there'll be some lore connection. Maybe people are speculating perhaps he's a member of the Deadlock gang. Like we mentioned last week, there was that change to the Route 66 payload. I think, well, maybe that'll be involved in the cinematic somehow with McCree and Nemesis. So we'll have to see. And then, of course, Hero 29 could just be something completely different.
Yeah.
Could be like Hammond et. We never know.
Yeah. Honestly, do not know. We haven't gotten out of the new heroes released since the game came out. We haven't gotten a DPS that's a good guy. We got Doomfist and Sombra. I would like
That's
a
true.
good guy. I would like a good guy, Greg. Here. But yeah, as far as like story mode rumors go, that makes sense. I feel like they're gonna announce something related to, based off what Jeff was hinting at, them not announcing a map anymore. There's got to be something else besides a hero, obviously. If it's a story mode, like that's believable. They've been talking about story mode for a while, but would I enjoy story mode? No, I would like them to focus on the competitive aspect of the game. But I'm sure I mean, it'll get a lot of people playing Overwatch again,
Yeah.
because
But
a lot of the audience and player base is not like me. They like stuff like this. So
and then I forget if it must have been like a September developer update or something, not the most recent one, the one before that, that they talked about that they had to delay some of the social features they were planning to because they were working on something else. So so that does make sense. That there's something else big that they're working on developing.
yeah, I've also heard some people talk about maybe they're gonna go free to play. Maybe that's the announcement. Um, which would be interesting. They always talked about how they want all the heroes unlocked from the get go, Um, but going free to play is something a lot of people have talked about that would give them a much larger here or player base for sure. So we'll see if they do that. What else was there? New skins. Not much to talk about here because we just get descriptions of them. But yeah, I think we'll get new.
Skins are cool.
Yeah, I think we'll get new. If it's not Blizzard World themed skins, we'll get new skins that are added to that are non-event skins. For sure. I think they want to do that every year. Um, but yeah, anything else? Any crazy predictions from you, Joe, on what's going to happen at BlizzCon?
But I suppose the other prediction people have been making. I don't know if you've seen this YouTube video, but apparently somebody was like data mining on a recent patch, and found more of a series of voice lines. There already had been some already that weren't used, but more of a series of voice lines for new heroes about um, the destruction of the objective. To so
Oh,
call out, see, the objective is being destroyed, or come take care of this with me, or whatever. The call outs like you get. And so people are saying, well, maybe there'll be a new game mode, whether it's an arcade type thing, like CTF where they make new maps for it and whatever, or if it comes out to be a whole thing, add to the escort and hybrid and payload type maps, to include some sort of destruction objective. But who knows? Like they were saying on that announcement, they said, there've been some of those voice lines in the game already, that they were just more added. And in theory, that would take a pretty long time to develop because you need several maps in rotation.
yeah,
Like Overwatch has 4 or 5 for each regular game mode. So,
yeah.
and
I
I
don't know. I don't know if they're going to add another game mode or not. It'd be cool if they did, but
yeah.
there are lots of maps already, lots of game modes. So we'll see what happens. There's a crowd of people rooting for game mode since this game came out. Honestly, these people love the game modes. Besides that, season 13 starts today. What time, Joe?
I don't know, probably evening.
Okay. Yeah, I'm excited to do placements again, and hopefully do better this season. Um, what else? I guess it's time to get on to the news, which I didn't sound too excited when I was saying that because there's a lot of controversy this week, and I don't like controversy too much. But we're gonna start out. I'm leading off with the contenders announcements that everyone's up in arms about and less up in arms about now. Um, but yeah, at the beginning, I guess to tell the whole story, it started with people leaking this news via because someone in the meeting where they were talking about these changes recorded that meeting and had leaked it to some news people, and those people had tweeted about it. And I think Real Leak Boy was the first one to tweet about it. So an
That
anonymous
sounds right.
person. And there are a bunch of changes that a lot of people were very up in arms about. Um, and looking back at it, I don't see exactly why. Basically calling Overwatch esports dead. And I think the biggest change, I guess I'll run through the changes. Basically, they're changing it from 12 to 8 teams per region. They're splitting North America into 2 different regions, so North America East and North America West. So these announcements are mainly for the 2019 season, I should mention, even though there is still one more season in 2018. 2019 season 1, they say that all the academy teams, so the academy teams are of course Overwatch League's lower tier teams in the tier 2 scene, they automatically get a spot for the 2019 season 1. But all those teams, endemic orgs, last night leftovers, the Seattle team that is no longer
Sky
Seattle, Sky
Foxes.
Foxes, all those teams, they will not get a guaranteed invite, and they must battle their way into Contenders 2019 once again. Something that a lot of people liked. Soft region locking was announced, which means you have to have three, or there's a max of three non-residents per roster. So of course, if you're in Contenders Korea, you can only have three non-Koreans on your roster, which is nice. A lot of people like that, and I think it's fitting. We've talked a lot on this podcast about how we don't like region locking, but I think it's fitting for Contenders because you want to keep talent in the places they're from, so people can easily Overwatch League teams can easily say, "I want some Korean talent. Let's look at the Contenders Korea teams," and you won't find these Korean players on North American teams and all that stuff. So there's going to be longer seasons, which is something both me and you like, Joe, because we don't like the 3 per year model. We 2 per year, that's better. I like that.
Yeah.
And they're going to continue to evaluate opportunities for cross-region play at live events, which is something everybody wants. Everybody wants to see the North American Contenders Champion play the European and so on. So I think these changes are pretty welcome. There's something about, I think the people are more upset. They think North America and Europe and North America and I think China, they like the changes to these two. I think everyone likes splitting East and West. But I think everyone agrees that it's not benefiting Korea too much because they just get less teams and less talent spread across the world as well, because you can't have too many Koreans on these other teams. So down from 12 to 8 is not too good for Korean Contenders, which is in probably everybody's opinion the best Contenders region. So the less focus on Korean Contenders, the more upset everyone around the world is. Joe, what's your favorite change here, and do you like the changes in general?
Yeah, so I mean, people have been talking about, this change, reducing the teams that'll reduce the amount of slots there are for Contenders players, which is true. But the other effect that has is that there will also be more. The Contenders' talent, in theory, will be more concentrated, so that in order to raise the level of competition a bit, which is nice.
Yep.
And obviously, I think it might have been like Sideshow or something even who had pointed out that this region locking, which in theory would also apply to the Owl Academy teams, would in effect be a slight benefit to Seoul's farm team, which do they even have a farm team? An academy team?
I think they did. I can't remember
Or
what it
maybe
was
they will in the
called.
future. I don't know.
I'll look it up while you keep talking.
But yeah, like I said, I think it was Sideshow who was saying that that because if the Seoul Academy team can only have mostly Korean players, in theory that means that they would then be able to have first exclusive rights to lots of those Korean players, also pulling them to their team. Which again, that sort of brings the argument of, well, if they're not Korean, they can't be good at Overwatch, which I don't think either of us really buy, at least exclusively. But yeah, that's so yes, so that's cool, right? Because they're trying to encourage, they are trying to encourage pull in talent from lots of different places. Um, Yeah, so the other interesting note I pull out of this is to have that the Academy teams are all invited automatically to Contenders Season 1 2019, right? And so I think it was Elk who said on Twitter, we we get an MMR reset in Contenders after like 4 seasons, but we haven't had one after 12 in the actual game.
Yeah.
Because that's the effect that has essentially is to reset the amount of teams, to reset the teams that have been either qualifying for contenders a lot, or haven't been able to yet, to sort of reset that, because it's like that if you win contenders, then like you automatically get a slot in the next season or something. um, to take away that advantage and sort of reset it for the 2019 seasons. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this playoffs or how this plays out. Because hopefully, what obviously money is the issue there too, and so hopefully, what this doesn't mean is uh, that Blizzard will be taking money out of contenders, but hopefully what that does mean is that the money that they do put into contenders will be more focused into a smaller spectrum, a small, well, it's a smaller organization now, with only 64 teams,
Yeah.
um, and hopefully being able to increase things like advertising, things like production value to an extent. Um, it maybe get some more viewers out of contenders, right? Because contenders is very little watched,
Oh yeah.
especially compared to Overwatch League. So
Yeah.
yeah, so hopefully being able to focus that down, hopefully we'll get some viewer involvement numbers up, and more interest in like tier two, which I'm sure is what they want overall.
Definitely. I think most of the people complaining about these changes don't really have any right to complain because they don't watch contenders and support it. So it seems like these changes are made because not only because Blizzard's not making money off of this, but I'm glad they're still keeping it around. Honestly, it's super nice to have a tier two scene in Overwatch, and to have contenders is nice in general, despite the fact that it gets like 5,000 concurrent viewers at a time. It's very nice to have. So I think to go in more about the reset, they definitely want to focus. I think the best way to keep the players and contenders happy, because I think most of the complaints from contenders players have been from endemic organizations and not the academy teams. I think they want almost every Overwatch League team to have an academy team as soon as possible, because that is the way that they're going to keep contenders players happy, but also paid and safe. Because you got, I mean, let's just talk about, I guess I'll do the Philadelphia Fusion and Fusion University for an example. Philadelphia Fusion has the right to those Fusion University players. They're not going to treat them like absolute crap. They're not going to they're not going to drive these players away because they're their future talent. And these are, I would rather, instead of having, I know everyone loves endemic orgs, everyone wants everyone to be supported, but I would much rather have the players be supported by someone like Philadelphia Fusion and Comcast, who has tons of money, than an endemic organization that is purely playing off of skill and talent and is trying to earn every dollar it can. It's much better if these players are being supported by an infrastructure and the pro teams that want to eventually use these talented players in the Overwatch League on their team. So they're not going to treat them terribly. They're going to give them a place to live, and they're going to pay them well as well. So, anything else to talk about with contenders, Joe?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, let's get into some player signings. This was the big rumor: Decay and Roar going to Gladiators, and Gladiators officially announced it with a very cheeky, funny video with Puckett and Bishu involved, um, where they made a slight nod to Fissure as the old model. Um,
It was GameStop, so lots of people were saying, well, they should have, put in a jab that like Puck is like, well, I can give you 250 for it, because they're trading him in.
yeah, and GameStop will give you $2.50 for an Xbox if you trade it in for sure. So, Decay, Roar. What do you think about these signings, Joe?
I think it's good. I mean, particularly Roar, obviously, before his signing, the Gladiators didn't have a signed main tank. They do have Bishu and Void sitting in a sort of flex role. But yeah, so that's a good addition. Obviously, um, Roar, really talented main tank. He's got really big shoes to fill. But hopefully this season will be good for developing. And same thing, Hydration and Surefour on DPS now added It added to it from Decay, former teammate from Kangdu Panthera of Roars. Yeah, so another great thing, right, to have three really good DPS players available. So I guess the question that we can start asking ourselves is, are they done? Gladiators now have eight signed. Um, Roar, Bushu, Void, Hydration, DK, Surefour, and Big Goose and Shaz. And so I think they could be very easily
Definitely.
done with that. You know, the three tanks, two supports, three DPS. Um, to have two on the bench and rotate through those, I think that's reasonable. If that's the plan that they're going to take, obviously I think every team has to have eight signed by like December 1st, I think. So they do have their eight players. We'll have to see if they get more or not. But I think this could be a really solid roster.
Yeah, I think Gladiators. I think Decay and Roar were two of the top free agents that everyone wanted to sign from contenders, and Gladiators got him, which is fantastic. And they, especially Roar. Roar is he's a great main tank, and they needed someone to replace Fissure, and I think they've got a good player to replace him with. And Decay, they're gonna have a nice little DPS trio going on over there. And they're honestly all three of their DPS players are perfect for different situations. So they don't have any overlap on these three, and I think that's a really good rotation for them. And the Gladiators loved to rotate last year too, so they're just going to continue with that strategy, I guess. And I think Decay and Roar are perfect free agent pickups for the Gladiators, and I don't think they're going to go anymore. Honestly, I think this is a solid team. Um, the Toronto Defiant, of course, we rated their branding last week. We haven't gotten any more branding since then, which I'm very upset about. So I would question if we could get a scheduled BlizzCon, which is sad. They announced six of their eight players. They have more coming. They announced it in twos throughout the weekend and beginning of the week. The first duo is Envy and Neko, which are previous, of course, on previous Overwatch League teams. You got Neko on Boston Uprising, which we will, of course, talk about later. The old Boston Uprising. And then you have Envy, who was on the Los Angeles Valiant. Next, they announced Ivy and Stellar, both O2 players, Korea contenders. And then they're both DPS duo. You love to see that synergy coming together. Then you got Yakbung and Aid. Yakbung is also O2. And then Aid was GGEA, which is the Outlaws, the Outlaws team in North American Contenders. So far, what do you think of this team, Joe?
Yes, so my initial response was some of these signings, particularly from contenders. I think we mentioned before that I don't uh, that I haven't followed contenders super well so far in my competitive Overwatch career. Obviously, Envy and Neko I know and familiar with. The rest of these guys obviously coming from really solid teams. They've got some what cohesion maybe is what I'm looking for. Coming in to keep them together. Notably, this is an all-Korean roster, at least for now. That might change. They do have to add at least two more players before December 1st. But yeah, it'll be cool. As we're adding, I already forget the number, eight teams. Yeah, we're adding eight new teams this season.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be able um, to be able to learn and develop all of these new fan favorites, which they will be a really cool storyline to watch as we go through the season.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's a big Toronto Defiant following already. Especially, I think Toronto's the closest team to us. Possibly. I don't know. I don't know who to root for. But basically, yeah, I like this roster. O2, they weren't good. They weren't as good contender season 2, but season 1 they got second, I believe. So that's a talented roster. They're getting some good players, and they got a good coach in Bishop. I believe I've been a big fan of Bishop, and getting Neko and Envy is good as well. You got some Overwatch League talent there. I believe the other rumor is Asher is one of these players, which is of course he was former Gladiators. So getting some more Overwatch League talent on there is good. What do we have next? The full Atlanta Reign. They took a completely different route than the Toronto team, and they just released everybody at once in a nice little YouTube video. This is a very very diverse team. Lots of different nationalities on this team. I think they're going the Philadelphia Fusion route, dude. Yeah, big at the end, of course. You had that big Defran reveal. Besides Defran, you got Erster, you got Nalir, I don't know how to say his name. You got Dako, Gator, Pokebo, Kodak, and Massa. 3 Koreans. You got a Finn. You got German. You got an American. You got a Russian, and then good old Defran. Where's Defran from again? Denmark.
Denmark, yeah.
What do you think about this roster and the reveal too?
Yeah, the video was cool. They had a highlight reel of everybody coming in. Obviously, probably the people you're most familiar with coming into this roster, just blank would be Diffran. And Kodak, if you watched the Overwatch World Cup, he played on Team Germany. Yeah, that sounds right. We had that Kodak Zen highlight if you watched that. But yeah, no, this will be a cool roster. They've got 8. They might just stay with 8. With 3 tanks, 3 DPS, 2 supports. So again, sort of the same thing though. Lots of contenders talent, lots of names that I'm not familiar with, but hope to be really familiar with. As we get closer into the season. But Popco, of course, to be distinguished from Poco. But yeah, it'll be good.
Yeah, you got some elemental mystic players on there. Yeah, these bunch of contenders talents. It should be interesting to see how they compete. You got no Overwatch League previous talent on this team, so it'll be interesting to see how these players compete with other players. I should be able to talk more about how I think they're going to do when me and Joe preview the season, a big season preview. But yeah, as far as Defran goes, I'm interested to see him back in the scene. He was very dominant on Selfless. It should take him a while to get back into the competitive aspect of the game, but I think we should see him come in pretty early into the season, and everyone's gonna love it. All right, next, NYXL signs Flower. I've found out that he changed his name back to Flower in this tweet.
This is the DPS formerly known as Nanohana.
Yeah. Flower to Nanohana, back to Flower, and I'm sure Nanohana is going to come back maybe when he's forced to take the number out of his name. Who knows? I think everyone expected this one. I mean, it's going to be a good signing. He hasn't been doing well in contenders, but we'll see if he can return to former glory. Do you have anything to say about this, Joe? Besides
returning to former glory under the tutelage of Big Boss Pine and all of them. Yeah, it's like there's not much New York could have done to improve their roster of 8, probably other than adding Flower. Obviously really known from World Cup last year. But yeah, so Pine, Libero, Sapiobi, and Flower now all sort of sitting in a DPS type position. But yeah, so to see how they incorporate him in, again, really solid roster that they've got built up already, will be cool to see as we get into season 2.
Yeah, I think the biggest part of this news, even though we basically already knew this was going to happen for sure, is that they have tons of DPS players on their team, and I don't know if they're going to try to get rid of one of them or what. We'll see what happens. Next piece of news. Boston, staying on the East Coast over here. They signed Color Hex and Axiom. I think everyone was expecting Color Hex after they signed him to Toronto Esports, as well as Axiom, who was also on Toronto Esports a lot earlier, since Contender Season 1. But Color Hex was just recently signed to Toronto Esports, so that happened pretty quickly. He didn't even get to play a game with Toronto Esports before being signed with the old Boston Uprising. To go around, this is to go along with Blase, who got signed a week before this by the Boston Uprising. Those are their signings so far. Joe, what do you think about Axiom and Color Hex?
That'll be great. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about, or well, we've kind of talked about Boston and their DPS, right? That we had Striker and Mistakes before that, Striker and Dreamcasper, and then just Striker. So yeah, to be able to fill in two extra DPS now, both of them are going to be really well. I feel like for some reason I'm connecting Color Hex with British Hurricane. Did he play for them for a while? It says he came from Sydney Drop Bears most recently, but uh,
No, I don't see him on British Hurricane at all.
okay, I don't know. But at any rate, yeah. So to have, like we said, they're up to 9 players, and I think again, are they done? They could reasonably stop now. Node Axiom and Gamsu on a tank position. Blase, Color Hex, and Striker for DPS, and Aim God, Neko, and Kelix for support. I think that's pretty solid. Or wait, Neko.
Neko's on Toronto.
Okay, they didn't update this list properly. So yeah, so they still got 8 players then.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so maybe they find another support player. Obviously, Aim God didn't see much play in season 1. So maybe they'll be bumped up. Who knows? But yeah, these are definitely good additions for the Boston squad.
Yeah. Speaking of Boston, I think we'll skip to the bottom here and we'll switch them because I like this transition. Um, Speaking of Boston, lots of news came out about them recently, which makes me a little more sad for these new signings, knowing that they might be going into a little bit of a toxic environment. But if you haven't heard yet, I think Boston's been one of the most um, drama-filled team so far, with Dream Casper and now this. I mean, there were rumors of this at the beginning of the season, or middle season, by Slasher tweeting it out about this. Nobody believed him at the time, and now we got a full-out article by Yiska and Benchmob that came out over VP Esports, basically just going into depth from a secret source about how Huck, the of course the general manager slash maybe even like a coach, based off this article, of the Boston Uprising, apparently being very aggressive towards the players. It was terrible to read. Basically, lots of players crying, lots of players being very upset. It basically starts from the treatment of sort of, or the how they dealt with having Korean players and players who spoke English on the team, and their translators, and basically almost according to somebody, God, one of their players that used to be on the team, I cannot remember, was on stream. Was it Kalios? It was Kalios. Kalios went on stream, and I think Kalios was probably one of the best sources on this. Basically, I think Kalios has probably the most accurate information between this article, and then Huck also wrote a response. I believe Kalios is the most, because I think this article is very biased against Boston, and I think Huck was very biased for himself, obviously. Whereas Kalios took a very middle route, and I usually think things are in the middle. Where it basically seemed like he was telling the truth. He did say that he cried in front of the team when he was kicked, because he got kicked from spectating one time by Huck because Huck wanted to watch the team, so Kalios could not watch the team. And Kalios asked Huck if he could get in there and watch, and Huck said no, and he got very sad about it. Kalios also told us that that the translator, they did have a translator. So the article originally said that they didn't have a translator until late in the season. Huck said they did have a translator the entire season, and Kalios gave us the nice little middle approach, saying they did have a translator at the beginning of the season, but that translator didn't know Korean that well, which is unfortunate for a translator. So Gamsu, in the article said that Gamsu had to translate a bunch. That was apparently true. And especially when the translator left halfway through and they hadn't hired a new translator yet, Gamsu not only had to learn how to play Overwatch, but he also had to translate for everybody, which is not something you want from one of your players. You don't want to make your player do that. The last thing was that he didn't mistakes didn't get his flight paid for when he wanted to leave the team. And Huck gave us that information that it was not Boston's choice to drop mistakes. It was mistakes himself who decided that he no longer wanted to be a part of the team. And the rumor was that he didn't get his flight paid for back to Russia. Huck came out, said that was not true. I don't know if Kalios had any information on that because he wasn't involved. But that's still up in the air. A lot of people, I think Michael came out and he had leaks apparently that said that his flight was paid for, so that part of the article wasn't true. Basically, lots of journalism issues this week and lots of journalism debate.
Pretty much.
I think we'll talk more about. Our second topic is about the leak wars. I think we'll talk more about journalism with that one, and I'll mention this article again. I think the biggest thing here that we need to talk about is the old players union. Joe, we talk about this all the time.
Yeah, or at least we did last week.
Yeah. You see this stuff, you immediately think there needs to be a players union. These people are not being treated well. Joe, what do you think? I mean, do you think the players are going to be able to, is it time for the Overwatch League to see this information and jump in themselves and start a players union for the players? Because it seems like the players are not motivated enough to do it.
Yeah, and that that might be part of it. I can't imagine that there's much of a situation where you end up lacking motivation to work in your own self-interest. But yeah, at the same time, there's the question, is this happening or why isn't it? We still haven't. But I think it's still true that we still haven't seen anybody's contract. I assume they're not restricted from collective bargaining. That's probably illegal or something. I don't know, but I bet I don't know what I'm talking about, so don't quote me on that. But the point is that's. I would imagine that would be something that they should be working on right now, if they are, or at least definitely getting started. Because you're right. Those are the kinds of issues that you talked about from Boston that definitely would have been or would be able to be addressed by a players' union. To be able to make sure that for example, the players that speak different languages, that there are effective communication, within the whole team. That's important to be a team, and stuff like that. Those are the types of things that would be able to be secured for the players more readily than they are right now. It's the same thing. Like we said last week, that now is the time, if they're going to do that, to go ahead and jump on into it. So we'll have to, maybe we'll get some developments on that here in the next couple of weeks. I don't know.
Yeah, that was something I forgot to mention too from the article. Was apparently the Uprising are not being paid well. Their players were not paid well whatsoever, and that is something a players union would completely fix. because with the players union comes the ability for the players to make it so all the contracts are public, all the numbers on how much each player is being paid is public, and that gets their bargaining skills way up because they know these players are being paid this much. Why are you offering me this low of a contract? So I think a players union is, I think it would work super well. Honestly, I would rather the players start it, but these people they're so young and they don't know how to do it. It's just going to be tough for them to figure things out. And esports is so young, and it's so tough to find someone to like look over the entire project of a players union. Honestly, so it's going to be hard. And I hope Nate Nancer encourages it, and if he doesn't start it himself, to at least give the players more information on how to do so, or more contacts on how to do so as well. Because I don't want to see things like this. I don't want to see players being mistreated or underpaid or anything like that. I don't think any of us want to see it, because the players they're all we got. Miraculously, Uprising, we're still able to do super well last season despite all these issues, though, which is probably a reason why Huck continued to treat them this way. Leak Wars. You got the old Leak Wars started by Halo of Thoughts, a journalist in the scene, just wrote this entire article basically revealing how Michael, of course, our leak boy, has been getting his information, which is apparently a spreadsheet shared throughout the entirety of the league, that has all the players that these people are trialing and all the signings and all that stuff. And that's how Michael has been getting his information. Michael denied it completely, which I think was stupid because I think it's clear that this is how he's been getting his information. But what do you think? A lot of people have been calling this a hit piece, and they've been calling it petty. What do you think about Halo writing this?
Yeah, on the one hand, it's good for us to know that, or, to know how all this has happened. That there is value to that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Whether it was necessary is another question, but it does give value to the public, to people like us, right? That's somewhere floating around the internet. Apparently, there's a spreadsheet of all of the teams so that they know what's going on with each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, whether so like whether this reveal was necessary, that's a different question. I don't know, and part of it depends, I would think, on what's so partly like what did Halo have to gain, right? From making this, and the answer is not much other than you know telling people, oh well, Michael is stupid, or he's misleading you, which again might be true, but who knows? That At least in my opinion, it's mostly his prerogative if he wants to not talk about his access to that spreadsheet. I mean, because for all we know, he's not supposed to have access to it. Clearly, that's
Clearly he
public.
doesn't.
Clearly, that's public knowledge now. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's weird. The
Yeah,
whole
I don't know.
situation is just weird.
I don't know. Or Halo. I mean, I'd like that he wrote it because we all this article did was let us know that Michael has a good source. He
Yeah.
has a legitimate source for his information. I as a journalist minor over here, I went to school for journalism, and while Michael's like videos and stuff like that have not been as journalistic, I think his tweets are fine. I think him tweeting those rumors out have been journalistic as they can be. I think his videos are longer than they should need to be. They're very sensationalized. I don't like his video style of reporting rumors whatsoever, but I like his tweets. His tweets are fine. And he has been monetizing his videos and his weird leaks, and I don't like that, but his tweets are all good. Michael's been has been fine. He's been giving us good information. He got access to something. He's just using that to inform the public, which is what journalism is. So I do question why the spreadsheet exists, because if the teams made it specifically, because if I were a team, I wouldn't really want to be sharing my strategies or my roster with everybody. I don't know.
And they mentioned in one of these articles about this. There's been several, but that like for example, the Vancouver team has nothing listed still.
Yeah. I
So yeah, I
mean,
guess it could be their choice, but
yeah, if I were a team, I would list that once everybody else knew. I would put that on there maybe, but while I'm trialing people or while I'm figuring out my roster, I'm not giving people names. I'm keeping that to myself. So, very interesting that the spreadsheet exists to me, honestly. It sounds like it'd be funny if Vancouver was the team who made this spreadsheet.
yeah,
They're like, everyone,
just sort of snuck it in there. Just
yeah, they're like, everyone put in their players that they're trialing in here. We will too, I swear.
when you're doing a group project, but you let everyone else do all the work.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, journalism issues. I mean, everyone's like debating this. I think Halo of Thoughts article was less journalistic than most of the things Michael has tweeted. Honestly, it was just like a hit piece for no reason. Almost, he had like no. The only evidence he had was like evidence that supported Michael. So it was a very weird piece. I think Halo's just a little maybe jealous that Michael had access to that spreadsheet and he didn't. I mean, I would be too. Honestly, if I were a reputable journalist in the Overwatch scene, and then all of a sudden this content creator came out of nowhere and had all this information because he was friends with players in the league, and he was like monetizing weird videos about it where he like sensationalized it, I would be upset too. I would be. I don't blame Halo for being upset, but I definitely wouldn't write this because that just makes you look worse. And as far as the journalism goes on the VP esports front, the one thing I didn't like about it is I don't think it was as accurate. The Boston Uprising article was as accurate as it could have been because apparently, according to Huck, they reached out to Huck on Twitter, but Huck didn't respond because he was busy apparently. And 3 hours after they sent the message, they posted the article. You always got to ask the source of the hit piece you're writing about for a comment. You can't just be like, he's not responding, let's just post it. Like, you got to wait at least 24 hours for that because like, you can't give him 3 or 4 hours. Huck's clearly a busy man. That's like one of the number one rules, and I've learned here at Butler Journalism is you gotta wait. Go. You can't. I mean, I know nowadays everyone's like, let's get the information out as quickly as possible because that's how you get views. But now people are thinking VP Esports is less respectable because they didn't have the right information in some places, honestly. Because, I mean, Kalios came out and told us where they were wrong. So they've got to make sure they not only source whoever they got their source from, but also source everyone else involved in the story. You can't just do a one source story. Never do a one source story. You just added this nice little tidbit.
Yeah, just in like the last 15 minutes while we were recording the show, Blizzard has announced that the Overwatch World Cup viewer is available. You can download it right now. And actually, John, you can download it right now.
I'm going to.
And in theory, launch it. I haven't launched it yet to see what it is. But it's available. There's a little write-up online. You can look for it's on the Overwatch Twitter and all that. Tells you how to use it. But it's the same thing like we speculated a couple weeks ago. That it's accessible up next to the PTR option on your PC Blizzard app. That you can install it just like you would another domain. And then in theory go watch the matches. They said they'll keep it up for about a month after the Overwatch League or after the World Cup, so you'll have plenty of time to go back and watch your replays of the semifinals and final matches, not the quarterfinals. But yeah, so it just came out like 10 minutes ago.
Very exciting. I have insufficient space on my computer. and I'm upset.
Yeah, it's like 14 gigabytes or something.
Yeah, I'm
So
gonna have to delete some stuff after this podcast. But yeah, that's it. I'm excited. I'm so excited. Overwatch World Cup. Everyone watch it. It's gonna be exciting. Everyone watch BlizzCon too. Um, another episode done. I think we're gonna be back on Monday next week, right, Joe? Back to our old
yeah,
schedule.
because we'll have tons to talk about after this weekend.
Exactly right. So we don't have to wait till Wednesday. I hope we get Overwatch League news this weekend, but it's not looking likely, honestly. Um, yeah, I guess we'll finish it off with our social media. You can follow us at our personal Twitters. Mine is at JWGeorgeIV. Joe's is at Kirkpatrick_Inc. That's INC. You can follow the show's Twitter at On The Flank Show. And you can email us on theflankshow@gmail.com if you have any topics you want us to talk about. You can also tweet at us. I know tweeting is more modern if you have any topics you want to talk about. Of course, you're listening to this somehow, but if you want to listen to it in another way, you can find us at ontheflank.podbean.com. You can find us on my personal YouTube, which is John George, which is linked on my Twitter. It's very hard to just search John George and find it on YouTube. You can check us out on iTunes and Apple Podcasts app. And you can also check us out on Spotify, Google Play Music, coming soon. Thank you guys for listening, and enjoy an amazing weekend of BlizzCon.